In the last 1.5 hours, we have brought to a close the JoyNews national dialogue on illegal mining. Yeah, it's brought to a close because the event has ended. But the advocacy for action hasn't ended. In fact, it is just beginning. And it begins here on PM Express. We're calling it Galamsey War Reloaded. If you thought that the Galamsey War had ended, we just started this whole new phase of the fight. We're going to unpack the key thing, the JoyNews call to action, which is exactly what we're going to be looking at tonight, the JoyNews call to action. Because we, tonight, brought together the stakeholders, and they all came together proposing solutions. What we're looking for was to explore for radical solutions to a national crisis. And I'm delighted to say that we've got a fair bit of some great proposals that we put together in our communique, in the resolutions, which we'll be putting up on our many handles, but also handing over to the duty bearers, of course, because that is how you get solutions. That is how that's the media's role, basically. And that's what we commit to do, working together. Some of the proposals that have come up that we've seen today. One is inclusive engagement, encouraging involvement from all stakeholders is very key. That stakeholders cannot work in silos. So we saw that at play tonight when you joined us on the JoyNews channel, on radio, on digital platforms across the board, really. Between the Minerals Commission and the Forestry Commission, the directors were there, but you could see that they're not working together as they should. We hear the Minerals Commission talking about, well, it's not our fault that a particular company is in the forest doing illegal mining, although we know this company, and they've called them out. They were hoping that the Forestry Commission will then take the next step of stopping them or making sure that they are prosecuted. But as we know, that company in question, Akonta Mining, they haven't been prosecuted. Nobody knows where the case is. In fact, the director of the Forestry Commission, who was with us on the panel, said a matter was reported to the police and it was sent to Accra and it was sent to the AG's office and they haven't heard anything since, right? So that clearly is an issue. So stakeholders tonight at the JoyNews National Dialogue on Illegal Mining resolved that all stakeholders must work together. We must bring everybody together, researchers and forces. Even those associated with Galamsey themselves must be brought into the conversation at some point so that we can explore the solutions. And collaboration between the agencies, right? Advocating effective collaboration among key agencies is a key part of the solutions that we saw today. Another key one that came up today, media accountability, encouraging media houses to expose and hold accountable politicians who, of course, are involved in this. There was a call for us to name and shame them. We need the evidence to do this, and that's why we spend weeks in the forest, on the back of which we've had this conversation. And we've mentioned already companies, and we know some of them, the principals of that company have political leanings. We know them. We've been calling them, naming them and shaming them. We need to move beyond this to some action. And then we had today, rallying behind President Boateng. Well, but even him was challenged today that when he was there, what did he do? We had to hold them accountable. Those currently there and those who were there before in terms of the responsibility to end this. Non-partisan approach is something that was called today. Collective action beyond partisan divides, because politics often has led to a situation where politicians are afraid to really do what is necessary to end illegal mining, right? This is something that the participants at the forum say must end. Local involvement, and I really like this, involving local communities and small-scale miners in task forces targeting illegal mining. And that for me is key. The chiefs themselves must be involved in the fight. The local communities themselves must be involved in the fight. We shouldn't just be sending soldiers from Accra into the communities and asking them to go and eradicate the illegal mining if you don't involve the local communities themselves. And that was a great proposal from today's session. And then we also heard enhanced law enforcement. How many times have we not heard this, but we haven't seen that play out as effectively as we should, right? And we're seeing calls tonight for prosecute those involved. And it is the Minerals Commission CEO himself who was saying this, that yes, Aisha Huang, we'll talk about Aisha Huang in quite a great detail because the Deputy Attorney General is my guest tonight, right? Great intervention, great score today. The state finally getting Aisha Huang convicted and she's going to go behind bars for 4 years, 6 months, right? But as we heard today from the Minerals Commission boss, we need to do more of this. We need to go after the financiers, not just the guys who we find on the Galamsey sites. Let's go behind and get those who are actually financing this, the kingpins, the queenpins, if you like, call them what you may, but those actually behind this, the Aisha Huangs of this world. Let's get more of them prosecuted. And then civil society participation is key. Encourage civil societies to prioritize the issue in what they do is key. I mean, one of the last time we had a civil society get involved in this particular space, it's as if people are tired. But we can be, because this is the most existential threat that we face currently because of its very important nature to our lives. And I call it is environmental terrorism. If you capture it as that, then you know this is one that you cannot joke with. And it's an environmental crime that has been committed on us. And then, of course, the media must play an active role. Everybody else must join in this. The media came together right after the 2016 elections and joined forces. It's fizzled out somehow. We hope that this could be a start of a conversation to that. And then legislative reform. The LI that has been passed, there's a call for it to be repealed, really, because we need to be explicit in prohibiting mining in forest reserves. Explicit, without a shadow of doubt, without any ambiguity. Ban mining in forest reserve. It's simple, really. It's a solution that's been proposed tonight. And we're going to be putting all this together. This is just a summary. It is a tall list of radical solutions proposed tonight that we'll be handing over to the authorities for their consideration. There's more, really, on legal accountability, enforce the legal measures. If we pass a law, let's enforce it. And that is key. And then you talk about targeting financiers. I made that point already. Aisha Huang is great. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that pretty shortly. That is a great start. Is it deterrent enough, by the way? Can we expand it beyond Aisha Huang? Foreigners, locals involved as well, who are really putting a lot of money in this. But then, of course, if you crack down and you succeed, the Minerals Commission board say you can do anything you want if you don't find alternative livelihoods for those already involved in illegal mining, the youth who are unemployed. You are going to fail because they are desperate, driven by unemployment, really. And that's why they're doing what they're doing, destroying. They become easy targets for people with money to use, just like anything else. That's like terrorism. The guys who actually get to blow themselves up, they get to wear the explosives, the explosive vests, and blow themselves up. They are not those in the higher ups in the organization. This is a terrorist organization. Those actually financing it, they rarely get themselves in trouble. You know what Al-Qaeda did. You know the Bin Laden story. You know how he was caught. He was hiding comfortably somewhere in Pakistan when he was caught. Meanwhile, he sent many people to blow themselves up. That is the situation with illegal mining, right? The people who are actually doing this and have money, they are not on the ground, right? But those actually doing it and ready to get into the pits and die, they need something else to take their minds off this, to move the attention of illegal mining. And what is that? Alternative livelihoods. But how do we do this so that it doesn't also become a cover for more destruction to the environment? As many have suggested, the community mining scheme itself hasn't quite fixed the problem. It's actually become a problem. So it's pretty a complex process, a complex problem that we've explored today. But this is just 13 of them. There are more than 20 key points that came from this conference today that JoyNews, in partnership with WaterAid and the Chamber of Mines, came together to do. And it's important. What we are going to do is to put all of it out there on our many handles, and then we follow up. When I sit down, we'll start with Aisha Huang, because at least it is one key block, very tangible, that has happened today. A significant financier, foreigner, has been jailed, right? It is important. We'll discuss it. But then how do we use that as a deterrent? And is it even deterrent enough? Why 4 years, 6 months? Why not 15, why not 25 years, as we've seen in the amended Act of 2019? Stay with me after this. We'll discuss all of that, plus the resolutions. And thanks for staying with us. PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Hello, mobility experience greatness in every moment. Ghana AIDS Commission. Syntex Tanks is that tank for you, because it is the first to introduce a double-layer tank And now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntax Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce you to the customer specs order, which lets you order any color, size, or preference. Now, Syntax Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntax Tanks. We have agents nationwide. Call them on 0244 335 168 or shop online at syntax.com. syntaxgh.com. A strong, a tap. My guest in the studio with me is Alfred Tianyeboa. He's a Deputy Attorney General, and as you know, they scored a big win today, and so he agreed to join me in the studio to talk about Aisha Huang. But the key question is, how can we use this Aisha Huang conviction to serve as a deterrent? And as you said, as you had the panelists and the audiences and the participants at the JoyNews panel discussions and the national dialogue say they want more of Aisha Huang prosecutions. They just want the guys on the field that the police will just pick up and just bundle and prosecute in jail. They want the financiers, they want the kingpins and the queenpins, call them what you may. And so Aisha Huang is just one. How do we get more of those? Also joining me in the studio is Professor Paul Poku Sampini Osai, who is the Department of Pathology, KNUS. You're wondering, how is a pathologist in the conversation on illegal mining? Well, you're pretty short because he's done a lot of work in this area, and he's been sort of getting us to appreciate the devastating impact of this menace on us all. And so that's why he's here with me. Martin Kpebu will join me. He is a campaigner. He himself has sent a petition on the illegal mining to the police and has been following up. And Martin joins me right now. Hello, Martin. Thank you very much for joining me here on PM Express. And then Erastus Aridonko, you know him, is the man who did that fantastic documentary, which was the basis for our conversation today. I really want to start with the Deputy Attorney General. This obviously was a big win. Aisha Huang has hunted you, the whole country, for a long, long time. Her presence predates you, right? And she eluded you once. You came back in. You've nailed her now. I'm just curious. Is she already languishing somewhere in a jail, somewhere in Accra or in somewhere? Do you know for sure where?
Thank you very much. Yes, Aisha Huang should be in jail by now.
Okay.
But I'm not sure whether she's at Sawam or in Accra.
Okay.
But for the last 12 months, she's been in custody. But during the period of the trial, she was not granted bail. From September last year up to today, she was on remand. And from today, she will be a prisoner who has been convicted, who has to serve 4 years, 6 months.
I see. So in addition to the 4 years, 6 months, if you add the remand that she was on, which is 12 months, you say?
12 months.
So that's 5 years in total then. Or did the judge factor that into the
Yes, the judge did so.
Okay.
Our constitutional architecture, if you take Article 14.6, it's been stated that when a judge is passing sentence, she must take into consideration the period spent by the accused person in lawful custody. So in this particular case, the judge noted that and said, having served 12 months plus in lawful custody, she was not married to give her a 5 years maximum sentence, but to reduce it by 6 months and make it 4 years, 6 months.
Okay. So was this a maximum sentence under the law you tried her with?
Yes, under the law that we tried her with. And under the law that she committed the offenses that we charged her with. The maximum sentence is 5 years.
Okay. So that's why she gets 4 years, because of the 12 years remand that she's been on. Okay, great explanation. Let me bring in Martin. Martin, you've been a campaigner on this Aisha Huang matter too. We saw the verdict handed down tonight. What's your reaction to it?
So I'm a bit muted, for lack of a better word. I say so because, you see, Evans, under the current law, Act 995, right? The punishment for such an offense usually is a minimum of 20 years and then a maximum of 30 years. Yet, because they're using the old law, Aisha Huang is getting off with about 5 years, which looks very much like a slap on the wrist. So my emotions are like, okay, I want to see the judgment. Is it possible that we should rather be using the new sentence instead of the old one? Because some of the jurisprudence shows that a person doesn't have a vested right, an accused doesn't have a vested right in sentencing. That is to say, procedural law. So the procedural law can change at any time. And so when it changes, and the sentence of a crime is usually considered as part of the procedural law. So I'm looking to see that jurisprudence. When we see the judgment, can we make an argument that it should rather be the new sentence and not the old one? Sometimes it's good to try because, Aisha Huang must really face the full rigors of the law. I would have thought if we could use, of course, I must also say that the new law is a bit too stiff, but in the middle, somewhere around 10 years, looks more like it. But Evans, let me quickly add that Aisha Huang's one is even better than ours. Like you mentioned earlier, we petitioned against Chairman Woodme and Chibosiaku, MPP chairman, and over 1 year, the CID boss hasn't taken the case to court.
And you mean this is the Akonta mining matter?
Akonta mining. Yes, we've made several appeals to DCOP Faustina and Kofi that she must take this case to court. Evans, even just this evening, your program at Labadi, the National Dialogue on Galamsey, Martin Eisi, the CEO of MINCOM, the Minerals Commission, repeated that, look, they still stand where they are, that they never gave Akonta mining any mining lease to go into the Tano Nimri forest. This evening, today, 4th December 2023, Martin Eisi repeated it, that they still stand where they are. They never gave Akonta mining any mining lease to go into the Tano Nimri forest. So what is it about the case that Madame Ando Kofi, who is also even a lawyer at the same time, what is she scared of? What is rocket science about it? And Erastus has the full footage. You see the damage. From Tom Boating's report also has pictures of some of the damage. So, Madam Ando Kofi, you really must send this case to court.
Okay.
Chairman Woon to me is also a citizen. He should not
and indeed, I will look into that for you because also not only the Minerals Commission CEO making that point, the director, the Forestry Commission director, also says the case was sent from where they first, of course, Enchi to Accra, and then the AG's office, and this is the director of the Minerals Commission, the Forestry Commission. The AG's office took it up, and they were waiting for an advice, and that has not come. But I'll come to that. On the first point you made, though, about the punishment, the sentence for Aisha Huang not possibly being punitive enough, and why we didn't see the judge or the court apply the latest amendment, the 2019 amendment to her. I want to put that to the Deputy Attorney General too. But before that, I wanted to quickly listen to two clips from our dialogue tonight, which also touched on the same matter. First is Professor Frimpong Boateng, former Environment Minister, and then Ken Ashigbe, who of course leads the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining.
I believe that the law was changed, and the minimum sentence was supposed to be 15 years. Mm-hmm. So that's what I know. Thank you.
So it should have been 15 years instead of what we had?
Minimum.
Okay.
One of the points that have to be made is about this lady judge that's handling this case. Right from the onset, considering Aisha Huang as a flight risk, the positions she took, and the fact that she was very nationalistic in the doing of her job, you just have to position her against the judge, I think it was One Quest in Takwa, who prosecuted, on whose court they prosecuted some 4 Chinese people. And he, in sentencing these foreigners, sentenced them to the minimum sentence for Ghanaians. Just a fine of 2,400 Ghana cedis. And seeing that finally we have got some conviction. My only pain is that apparently when we rearrested Aisha Huang, we still were prosecuting her under the old law. And my question I ask is that when she was rearrested, coming back again, I think that was one of the charges. And then did she not get involved in any mining activity for which then the charges should have been under the current punishment regime? So yes, it's great that we've seen some prosecution of somebody who is not just one of those people we find in the forest reserves, and we've been able to get to the point where we're getting to. And I agree with Nana when he talks about getting to the basis and finding out why this thing is happening. But and again, when Doc talks about the fact that we're going to go into an election next year, and if you look at what has happened, the sinusoidal dances we've been doing, and we are confronted with such grave challenges as a country, but I don't think we are passionate enough. And the Forestry Commission, unfortunately, I don't believe you're doing enough, to really be able to resolve the issues. Nana too as well. I think all of us, and even all of us as citizens, but those who are actually being put in power, to be able to deal.
Mr. Chairman, but thankfully is here. And how do you respond to all that?
All
Why not 15 years? Why 4 years, 6 months?
It's very simple. Now, in our criminal jurisprudence, the time that you commit an offense is the very time that you use when you are being punished. So if you commit an offense in 2015, and the punishment then was punishment Y, and you are tried in 2020, where that law has even been repealed, per our laws, when it comes to punishment, you cannot be punished under the new law, but rather the existing law at the time that the person committed the offense. In this particular case, Aisha Huang committed the offenses between February 2015 and May 2017. And 995 came into force in 2019. So obviously, 995 is out. Now, if you look at our Constitution, Martin Pebo, I think you may have to look at that. Article 19.6, if I may be permitted to read here, says no penalty shall be imposed for a criminal offense that is severer in degree or description than the maximum penalty that could have been imposed for that offense at the time when the offense was committed.
Which act is it?
Article 19.6
in the Constitution.
of our Constitution. So it's so clear. In our Constitution, if you are being punished, we look at the law at the time that you committed that particular offense. That's why it's not alone. If you look at our Interpretation Act, which is Act 792, Section 35 2E, it's also the effect that when any act is repealed or substituted, when it comes to punishment, you cannot punish more than what you had in the existing law. However, if the new law has reduced the punishment, you should punish the person under the new law. That is our law. I don't know whether you're getting me. When the new law has reduced the sentence, as a judge, when you convict the person by punishing him, you use the new law because it's lower.
Even if the crime was committed under the old law.
Under the old law. But if the old law is the punishment there is higher than the new law, in that case, you use the new law. But if the old law is lower than the new law, then you must use the old law. So it's so clear. Article 19.6, then Section 35 2E of our Interpretation Act. So the judge actually digested these two provisions and came to a conclusion that she had no option than to punish Aisha Huang under.
So this boiled down to when the crime was committed.
Exactly.
So let me ask then. Aisha Huang was rearrested in 2022. And when she was rearrested, and the narrative around her rearrest was that she had returned into this country, although we had sent her away in 2018, and she was engaged in illegal mining. So when we rearrested her, why didn't we use the new law, the amended act, which was passed in 2019?
When we arrested her last year, there was no evidence that when she came back to Ghana, she committed illegal mining offenses. No evidence.
Did you look for it?
Oh, yes. No evidence. As I speak, if there's any evidence that when she came back, she was engaged in illegal mining, that would have been another
matter. She was arrested somewhere in Ashanti region.
In September, in Ashanti region.
The Ashanti region.
Yes.
She was definitely, without even knowing what the evidence said.
The law
must have been involved in some form of illegal mining.
The law is about evidence, but not speculation. Do you have evidence that when she came back in 2022, she was into illegal mining?
The state must find the evidence.
We didn't get it.
Did the police investigate it?
Nothing of that sort.
Did you just automatically just use the old offense?
You see, let me give you this information. This is a case where citizens of this land actually helped us in prosecuting this lady. We had farmers, about 6 of them, who came to court testify that Aisha Huang came to them, bargained with them for their land, sometimes 1 acre, half acre, for her to do illegal mining activities. Apart from these pieces of evidence, immigration also came in. They dealt with the issue of immigration. And in fact, in this particular matter, immigration did so well because they arrested her in 2018. And thereafter, she was sent to court and then she was deported. Then she came back. But when she came back, not a scintilla of evidence exists that she engaged in illegal mining. But prior to 2022, when she was deported, there was enough evidence. And that's why we decided that we must prosecute her based on the evidence available. You don't go to court without evidence only for you to be defeated in court. We are officers of the law, officers of the court. We prosecute based on evidence. Aisha Huang's case was prosecuted based on the evidence that we had between 2015 and 2017. Nothing more, nothing less.
Martin? Hello, Martin.
Yes, hello, Evans.
I can hear you, yes.
Yes, Deputy AG is convincing, but like I said earlier, I want to look at how we would not be able to use the new law because of, Senior, you know the issue of procedural law, when the punishment, you don't have a vested right in punishment because punishment is seen as part of the procedural law. I remember some parts of the law of interpretation. That's why I'm saying that let's get the judgment. Maybe we should be ready to test it a bit and see. Nothing is ever clear in law.
Okay. So is something you want to say to that?
Yes, I wanted to read the Interpretation Act so that at least Martin also and the other viewers also follow when it comes to the discussion on why she was punished under the old law. Section 35 2E of the Interpretation Act. Yes, I'm reading. It says, where an enactment repeals or revokes an enactment in this subsection, and in subsection 3, referred to as the old enactment, and substitutes by way of amendment, revision, or consolidation with any other enactment, then E. Where a penalty, a forfeiture, or a punishment is reduced or mitigated by a provision of the enactment so substituted, the penalty, forfeiture, or punishment, if imposed or awarded after the repeal or revocation, shall be reduced or mitigated accordingly, as I told you. So if you have a new law that has reduced the punishment under the old law, use it. That is the law. But if the old law is lower than the new law, use the old law. So when it comes to punishment, I'm talking about procedural matters. It's not about the punishment. The Constitution is so clear. Even if Section 35 is not there, Article 19.6 is so clear that you can't punish someone more than the maximum punishment at the time that the person committed that offense. We are clear in our mind that the judge, looking at the constitutional provision, looking at the Interpretation Act, did what she was supposed to do in the circumstance. Regardless, in fact, we were wishing that Aisha could go 20 years because the minimum for foreign nationals is 20 years, after 25 years. Yeah. But we had no evidence. So we needed to just look at that. And the judge also made this recommendation about people who give lands to people to do illegal mining. And that's a valid point.
In fact, she said that the people who give lands out should be targeted too in your work.
Yes, but you may have to get it in. That's why she made this kind of that the law must be amended specifically to cater for that one.
Okay, so in other words, the law must be amended to say if you give your land out to illegal miners, then you are also liable to be prosecuted under the amended act.
Exactly. And now, fortunately for us, we use the landowners. The only problem is that if you have such a law, the owners will not come up to give evidence.
You need somebody to testify against somebody.
So in this particular case, 6 of them.
do a deal, yes. Of course, you can always do a
plea. Yes,
of course, do a plea.
So even if you have such a law, it's a matter of just bargaining with them, using them as accomplice witnesses to prosecute.
In some respect, it will actually help you get people to testify because if they know you caught them and you say, I'm going to plea, do a plea bargaining with you. If you do this, you're possibly going to get a reduced sentence or some sort of.
I think so.
So that could help you.
Yeah, the judge made that.
Because now you have to convince them. They have to be of good, just love this country. You just want to come forward, right? But this one can actually help you to force them to do so.
I agree with you on that.
So is this something that you embrace?
We embrace it.
That are we going to see an amendment to the law because of the judge's suggestion?
We need to discuss it. At least the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, they are the ministry responsible for all this. So they may also have to look at the law. We need to.
But the AG's department, you are for this. You are for amendment to also make the giving out of land for Galamsey.
Exactly. If you give out your land, because now you see cocoa farmers giving out their lands. You tell them they are so bold to come on set and say, yes, that's my cocoa farm. I remember watching the video. Yes, that's
Absolutely.
my cocoa farm. That's my farm. I sell it and so what? So we may have to look at that stage and perhaps bring it into our law so that if you give your land out to anybody to do illegal mining, if it's legal mining, you don't have the kind of right to give land to any apart from the government when it comes to mining. But people do it and then eventually people go in and do illegal mining. But I need to repeat that this Aisha Huang trial is actually a case that the AG's office put in a lot of effort. We also commend the judge. This case spent not more than 13 months in court. 13 months. We called 11 witnesses. Then I must also commend the defense counsel. They cooperated with the court. We have instances where sometimes you take case to court and you don't get to the end of the matter. But in this case, we go to the end of the matter. If they disagree, they can then go ahead and appeal against the decision. So it's a matter that for the first time, we've had someone that we will say is
a kingpin, yes. I mean, I will come to Rosampini and Cope really shortly. Did you get any resistance, considering how powerful she was, as we're told, to the point where the senior minister one time says, look, we're better off diplomatically letting her go than facing diplomatic, conflict with China. Did you get anything of that sort?
No resistance, zero resistance.
Okay.
We did the matter just like any other person.
Okay.
So we treated Aisha just like any other accused person without any interference from any. After all, if there was that attempt, we would not have given in.
Was there an attempt?
No.
Okay. I mean, Martin, this obviously then boils down to when the crime was committed and the evidence, if you have it. Are you convinced the state did enough to find the evidence to link her to fresh crimes under the 2019 Act when she was rearrested in 2022?
Naturally, because in the recent past, the state hasn't done well, especially with the Frimpong Boateng report, where you could see clear cases of open and shut cases. You remember this same imperial heritage case that Frimpong Boateng gave evidence, etc. I'm not going with the state. No, they may be lucky that perhaps as citizens we didn't see any evidence that we can use to push the state. Evans. Yeah. So in other words, the state hasn't given me cause to trust them, especially in light of the Frimpong Boateng report, where there was clear evidence. This same imperial heritage went into the Kogro Forest, Upper Prama Forest. Erastus has the footage. You see, Erastus has even won journalism awards based upon it. And even the West Africa one, he was even given a citation. So he's won Journalist of the Year award in Ghana. The West Africa Awards, he even got a citation for that work. And yet, Attorney General came out to say, oh, Frimpong Boateng didn't cooperate. So Attorney General cannot prosecute. Some kind of whitewashing and that. So based upon that, I cannot trust the state. Maybe they are just lucky we don't have any other evidence to push them on this Aisha Huang case. And it's not only me. Evans, let's mention that the Speaker of Parliament referenced a certain survey recently that showed that the citizenry don't trust government. They say they trust the presidency only 14%, Parliament 8%, and then the judiciary 10%. So when there's distrust like this, you can't blame me. It's the general trend. Government has to do a lot to be able to win back our trust. The trust is gone.
And there's something else you said I want to quickly get the AG's thoughts on very briefly before I come to Prof. Doc, the subject of Akunta mining. Today at our national forum, pardon me, he's right. The Minerals Commission boss insisted that Akunta mining was engaged in illegal mining, pure and simple. The Forestry Commission director, who was seated right beside him, says, well, when we saw it, we reported it to the police. The police said they sent it to Accra and it was sent to your office. And they haven't heard anything since. And so, look, in a sense, it's all yours. Where is that case?
Thank you very much. Before I even answer that one, maybe I need to give the assurance to Martin and others who have this kind of view that people in offices are trying to do something untoward or are not doing the right thing. This paranoia is something that if care is not taken, will even kill people, will not let people go into public offices. You go to public office to serve with all your heart. But because people think that it's work as usual, whoever enters is going to do the same thing, it will get to a point where people may say, fine, I'm not going to that office.
Now, you know you can't blame us all.
Yes,
You may be an exception.
No, I don't think
But the rule is
yes.
it's hard to trust a politician.
So that trust must be there, especially when it comes to issues
You
like...
must earn it.
Yes. Yeah. When it comes to issues like prosecution, which is not done under the cover of darkness, is done in the open. People go to court to sit in, listen to the evidence. So you can make a judgment out of it. So your people who have been coming to the court, they'll testify to the fact that the state actually did what it's supposed to do.
To the
quantum mining.
Yes.
Whether the document has been submitted to our office is something that I cannot confirm. We have not cited it. But if indeed the police have submitted any docket to our office, from tomorrow I'll check from our DP session. If there's any docket, we'll work on it. If there's no docket, then perhaps we have to go back to the police because now, today, they are saying they've submitted a docket to our office. And we need to check because if people have been investigated and there's evidence that they need to be prosecuted.
Evidence that has been corroborated by the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, the Minerals Commission CEO, the Forestry Commission, publicly.
Yes. So I don't know the investigation the police have done so far. If they have taken statements from all these people and they've built a docket and submitted a docket to our office, we'll definitely work on it. And if we realize that the evidence is something we can use in prosecuting, we'll prosecute it.
But here's the thing, though. This is such a public admission of culpability expressed by your colleague, Minerals, Lands and Natural Resources Minister. Even assuming the police had failed to bring the docket to your office, this is something that the AG's office, as we've seen you do in other cases, should have taken it up, considering how devastating this is. In fact, today we heard from the water raid. They call it genocide of water bodies, which is the extreme act of violence. This is something that you should have taken up yourself.
You see, the AG's office does not investigate cases. We must get that one clear.
Not true, but this one, the evidence is open and shut.
Evidence, evidence is where you have given statement to the investigating body. You can sit in the office and say...
Except that you forget about evidence that the police will bring to you. Your own cabinet minister, Lands and Natural Resources Minister, publicly issued a statement and said illegal mining is happening.
For you may know the
Minerals Commission, which is the agency mandated to supervise.
For you may know, the minister has given statement to the police. As I said, if the docket has been...
The minister told me before that he had also spoken to the police. And
exactly. So it's possible that, as I said, it's possible that...
But how? My question is, the fact that this is such a high-profile case, the fact that more than a year on, we haven't seen the movement alone raises fundamental questions about the effectiveness of both the police and the AG's office.
That's why I was trying to explain that if you go to the United States of America, the prosecutors, in terms of the law department or the law office, they have their own investigators. They have control over the investigators. If you go to OSP in Ghana...
Have you checked, or have you taken the initiative to check with the police? Because it's so public. I mean, your minister colleague would have given you information.
As I said, it's possible that the docket has been... Because I don't work on all the dockets. Okay. So that's why I don't want to give any answer that I do not have. But if I check from tomorrow, I'll give you the feedback.
Okay.
And the docket is in our ministry, I will let you know.
Okay.
Then we'll
Prof,
look at it.
Let me come to you now. This conversation is important, and we have spent a lot of time and resources to do this because of what you found. Sure. That people are dying, deforming, etc., etc. You've heard the conversation tonight. I want to start with Aisha Huang matter. Do you think it's deterrent enough to stop people from destroying our water bodies and environment to the point where we're going to be seeing the sort of horrific thing that you've told us today?
Evans, thank you so much. People rightly say, I'm not a lawyer. And so it's very difficult for me to comment on any punishment meted out to any individual by the law courts. And if my understanding of the law is such that we punish people, we punish people just to correct them, make people be aware that whatever they are doing is not right and they should repent from whatever.
Let me frame the question differently. First of all, give us a sense of what you have established. in your line of work.
Yeah, sure.
As relates to the impact of illegal mining. And let's link that to how punitive the sanctions should be for those involved in it.
Well,
because people think they're destroying the water body. It's okay.
In that line, I agree with you. You see, if I have had the opportunity to, as it were, give some form of advice as to what this person should go through in terms of what I've seen, what I've done, how we are losing people, especially the unborn children, people who are, for no fault of theirs, are being deformed, are having all manner of birth defects, mothers losing their lives in terms of some of this pillage from these illegal things. You know, the illegal mining, the reason why we are worried about the fact that they are illegal mining is the fact that they are using all manner of illegalities to be able to extract whatever they want to. In fact, to the extent that you see most of them are now combining all manner of heavy metals to be able to extract as much as possible these ores from the soil.
And what are these heavy metals doing to us?
Well, the heavy metals are basically, no matter how it is, no matter how whoever sees it, it's never ever good to be celebrated.
So you're a pathologist. What are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of deformities. In fact, naturally, at a point when I started this thing, when first I was made to go and take a fetus, or maybe a baby from a mother's uterus, because the mother could not deliver the baby. And in fact, somebody will say that about a lot of people have not been able to deliver, and they died through labor. But this one, when I saw the deformity in those children, I got alarmed, and I said, "Wow, what is happening here?" And so, in medicine, you probably, especially those of us who are pathologists, whatever we do, especially if you want to give a meaning to whatever you are seeing, you need to do further investigation. Okay. And those investigations start from where the baby always gets, or the developing fetus gets its feed, gets whatever it needs to get to grow. It passes through the mother, and then the mother through what they call where, as we call placenta. That's where the baby gets.
So what did your investigations establish? Because you were curious. Why is this baby deformed? You wanted to establish what is causing this.
Well, yeah. And
what did you find?
Yeah, the finding was that, you see, one thing, these heavy metals, what they do is that they cause damage to the DNA. And they can also...
Of the mother or the bomb?
No, the DNA of the baby. The baby always picks DNA from different, the two who actually tangle to make the baby grow and wherever he's growing. So naturally what happens is that these things, when they come... In fact, let me just use this opportunity probably to, enlighten the populace as to what actually goes on. You know, in fusion, there's a baby's, the mother's side, the father's side that comes in. And then this baby at the point becomes more or less like a non-entity, something that cannot be defined. Then as time goes on, there's going to be what we call differentiation. And that differentiation is where a lot of organs are going to be separated, are going to be defined, so that you can make sense of probably the nose, you can make sense of the hands, you can make sense of every organ that is there. And they are all time bound. Do you understand? They are all time bound. So, and they go through what we call cell cycle. So the cell will go through a cycle of changing from one stage to the other before.
And what are the heavy metals doing to this whole
process? They block it. They spoil, they sort of block the whole cycle to continue. The cycle should not. In fact, of course, at some point, the cycle should be such that wherever there is a defective cell or defective tissue or defective organ formation, okay, what happens is that they are made to go through another form of corrective mechanism within. But this time, the thing has been blocked.
By the heavy metals? From the water? Or from the water?
Well, all manner, not only water. The air, the food that we eat, the water that we drink.
I see.
That's where the problem is.
And this is purely because, as you found, of the illegal mining, the chemicals.
Exactly. I think a boy was sent to me after my first expose. A boy was sent to me from Bekwai, and he was actually in the university, and then eventually had to drop off because he could not now write because of inhalation of these heavy metals.
Was he involved in illegal mining?
Yeah. He does. What he does is that he actually he calls it. He is the one in the kitchen who, as it were, there is a formation of the metal. I'm talking about the ore and this mercury to form something they call amalgam. And so now, when that thing is formed, they need to go and burn it to separate the mercury from the gold.
So, and what you just described is why there's a conversation about imposing the maximum penalty.
Sure.
Right, and you don't disagree with that, considering the lives being lost as a result.
I agree totally with the fact that the punishment should be a bit more deterrent, even though it is a means by which we correct people from repeating some of these things. Yeah. But if it becomes, more or less such small or whatever.
A slap on the wrist. And that's why you amended the act.
Yes.
In 2019.
2019.
Since then, have you successfully prosecuted anybody of note under the 2019 amendment?
Yes, we have. So many
of note.
You see,
not the guys you pick up from.
We are talking about even some Chinese, and the three of them. I think Mr. Ashby spoke about something that happened in the Western region.
Yes.
Those Chinese guys were arrested after 2019, and they were charged and prosecuted under Act 995. But when the judge convicted them in sentencing them, he used the old law.
Why?
So we appealed against the sentence. And they're not in custody. They are 25 years or 23 years each.
Okay.
They're in prison. So
when are we going to find the same sort of prosecution for the Ghanaians we know are also funding, like the people behind Akunta Mining?
You see, I've always kept and said that prosecution is about evidence.
I know you are going to go there.
And Ghanaians should volunteer information.
But we have. The Erastus documentary
Erastus, I commend Erastus for the work that he has done.
Yeah, we're going to come to your office and present one to you.
That'll be so nice.
The evidence.
Things. You see, even two things. You have the evidence there of illegal mining, devastation, but the next question is, who caused it? So you can have all the video footages, everything has been devastated. But the question is, who caused it?
So even if you don't see the principles of Akunta Mining behind it, considering that there are companies involved, and you have evidence from Lands and Natural Resources Minister, we can
prosecute the company. That one's not a problem. If a company can be prosecuted under our laws.
Yes.
So if a company is engaged in illegal mining,
and in this case, the directors of that will take the liability.
Yes, that's it. So companies can be prosecuted.
Martin, so he says, well, he needs the evidence on this and that they are ready to prosecute. What must we do to get them there? Considering the evidence is overwhelming on Akunta Mining, what must we do to make it impossible? The CID hasn't acted. The minister told me, I think last year, that he has spoken to the police and they've given them the evidence, but they haven't moved. So what do we need to do now?
Yeah, so let's keep a sunshine on this case. Let's keep giving these cases the necessary traction. So maybe Evans, let's agree that next Monday we'll do PM Express on it. So Mr. Chiayebua has 1 week to check in his chambers where that case is and then what he's able to do. So a week from now.
He's promised tomorrow he'll do that, and I'm going to call him to find out.
So let's keep doing it because look, this Akunta Mining case, for me, once Abu Jinapo minister said it, that Akunta Mining had no license, once Martin Ayisi of the Minerals Commission said it, and once Forestry Commission, these three institutions have said it that there was no license. We must prosecute this case. We must prosecute this case, and so we'll keep repeating it.
Yeah.
And citizens must also set up.
Get involved.
And Mr. Senior, you see, you have to try and redeem your image, because with the Frumpong Boateng report, what you guys did with this Imperial Heritage matter, and letting off Imperial Heritage and Gabi deceiving us, there will be a big trust deficit. So perhaps this Akunta Mining case is something.
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. And talking about holding accountable, Erastus has a minute. Erastus, what are we going to do with all the work we've done from today and your own work? We have a plan. Tell us briefly.
Well, so we're going to get copies of the documentaries. We're going to furnish the presidency with it, all the ministers, including the AG's office, for them to view the footage. And we are also having a roadshow which is going to be sponsored by USAGM. We're going to show this documentary in Twi language to the communities affected by it, to sensitize the people and empower them going forward.
Good. And Erastus, it's important that we stress that point. He has said that he wants the evidence of Akunta mining. We are going to include that. We are going to include that in our submissions.
I don't know what kind of evidence Mr. Chia wants, but if you watch the Distraction for Gold, there's a portion where they preach government's own buffer zone policy, and you could see from the drone footage the clear demarcation of how their tailings are leaking directly into the Tano River. This violates government's own buffer zone policy, which stipulates that you must move away 100 meters from a major river like the Tano. And so that one, the evidence is clear. I don't know whether that
and what he says he wants it, so we'll hand it over to him, and then we'll follow up. I'm grateful, Erastus. By the way, thank you all who joined us from 4 p.m. and we're continuing this conversation because it's important. Jeremy, I'm grateful for joining me. I'm going to call you tomorrow and see whether you find that docket.
Definitely.
As we pursue this further. Prof, safe journey back tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And Martin too. Keep on the activism. Enjoy the rest of your evening.